Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to our first episode of 2026, our 10th episode in this series of Value First Data. Here with Klemen and Casey. How are we doing?
Good. Excited.
Doing well.
And rested.
Excited to be back with the three of us to dig into Value First Data in the new year. And Chris, I think, is a little too pleased with how life is going and how technology is moving.
I mean, how can you not, in my opinion? Things are working out. They seem to be working out. I know. Yeah. And that's why we're here. At least that's why I'm here. Lots of value to be unlocked out there right now. Lots of smart people that are very tech savvy. They're still having trouble connecting the dots of, like, they know they need unified data and a lot of the things that everybody's telling you that you need to do to get value out of AI. But it's very hard to find a best practice or like a non like custom, like a non like case by case approach to getting this done, like in an organization. So a lot of the content we're going to be doing probably throughout the years, like how much show and tell can we do in a meaningful way that helps people, even if it's one at a time, like start to understand what we're doing. Is that fair?
Yeah, a lot to unpack and think through.
Yeah. So we're going to dive right in because I think we've got some tools now. We've spent a lot of time talking about like kind of the theory and the strategy related to value first data and understanding where people are, where the humans are in their journey. We went through all the value path stages. As a reminder, audience, research. I should start testing you guys at some point.
Oh, no.
We don't need to.
Don't go there.
Yeah, that's right. Casey doesn't like pop quizzes.
No, it's so bad.
Here.
I'm comfortable taking that one because I just expanded lifecycle stages in our HubSpot portal to those 8.
There you go.
So I could go and take that one for you, Casey.
I'll tell you what, either go for it or you can click on that button because I'm curious what it does. It says, not sure where to start. Talk to the catalyst. I didn't even know this was on the homepage.
Let's talk to the catalyst.
What are the 8 stages of
value
path?
Let's see what we get with that.
Nailed it.
The past stages. Here we go. Casey, you should be now comfortable taking that one.
Now that it's so, their audience, researcher, hand raiser, buyer, value creator, adopter, advocate, and champion. One thing about me, I read a lot of text on LinkedIn Lives.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm throwing everything into this site to try and like get this stuff out there. So by the end of this year, you will not be able to say I wasn't aware of this stuff. So that's where we've been. It's hard not to just want to just continue this conversation. So we'll go back. That's where we've been now. And so what does value first data mean? What does even like the value path mean? You're hearing a lot of phrases right now of like unified data. People are understanding that as a need, but like what's the first step to get there in like a robust kind of way where it's not like super gray immediately, and we've got to start like randomly finding quick wins. So I've landed on the Unified Customer View as a concept that it's very easy. It doesn't surprise you. It's very easy for two things to happen. And that's one, understand what unified and customer and view means. You generally don't have to explain those words. But two, you're unlikely to get any pushback that it's a good idea for the organization to have a unified customer view. Is that fair so far?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair.
So keeping it simple, is it fair to say it's a yes or no answer?
For that, I think you can get the yes.
All right. So if we can get that alignment out of the gate, it gives you a very clear, let's say a clear deliverable, for lack of a better word, that we might not know. Like, I don't have any idea how to get there, but it creates a more meaningful outcome as opposed to unified data, right? It's less ambiguous in my opinion. And to see what I mean, like, let's go to the playbook, if you don't mind, Klemen. So under content and playbooks, click on the Unified Customer View and some foreshadowing. We're going to be doing this on this series to go through these different views. This is ungated. Anybody can come in, and probably should share some links to it at some point. But step-by-step guide to building complete customer visibility in HubSpot, configure properties, set up associations, and create automated workflows. Curious, when you guys think playbook as it relates to software, what do you think is about to happen?
Sale.
To me, the onboarding to something.
That's fair. And even here, like, a lot of the reason I'm doing this is like spending this month figuring out if these words make sense, and it'd be so hard to be in your own world and just like develop and think it's the right words. Even as I'm reading this, after the conversation you just had with Trisha, like, it says this playbook will guide you through configuring HubSpot for complete customer visibility. Before we start, let's make sure you have everything you need. Check off each item as you verify it. I would love for you guys to just share what comes to mind as you read through these items. And they have not seen this before, folks, just in case.
The dead air wasn't like.
So raw feedback on the way.
I think these make sense. I'm thinking back, if I'm being honest, on what's like going on in my actual brain. Is I did that series for a while, Chris, on like where do HubSpot admins go first in HubSpot, and I'm thinking about like a lot of the settings that that people mention there, and this is aligning with a lot of what that looked like.
On the right track.
Critically is missing yet.
Have you ever been in that situation where somebody asks you for help with HubSpot, help cleaning up HubSpot, help optimizing HubSpot, and then you ask them what licenses they have and which parts of HubSpot they have, and they can't answer that question?
So many times, and I've I'm really bad at like what is included in the different HubSpot tiers. So I'm constantly talking to people who are like, hey, Casey, we want your help setting up automation. And I'm like, amazing, you got it. And then I get in there and they're on like a starter tier. And I'm like, so here's the thing.
Yep.
I typically see that when part of the scope we request for Celestial to connect via API is for the sequences, because this is often been part of what we help also, and because that is behind the Sales Pro, that's when I figure out, okay, so you don't have Sales Pro. Other than that, I often forget even to ask, because I just assume a bit mature companies just have at least that.
Yep. And that gets you into trouble real quick if you start making promises about what you can do to help them, and then you find out that they don't have access to workflows.
It really does.
Yeah.
I cannot emphasize how much trouble.
Right. And as I try to qualify what's on the screen here, like sales, service, or marketing, generally those are the customer-facing teams. So that's why you might not see the other hubs on here, but I'm not sure I want to single those out. But either way, like understand what HubSpot, like what level of HubSpot is active.
You could also have the Smart CRM.
Yep.
You have workflows, right?
Yes. Yep. So Smart CRM, Commerce Hub, Content Hub. That's where it's really about getting to the heart of like how the business uses HubSpot and who you're going to need to talk to and things like that. So then we have admin permissions. Again, you might be surprised how often, like when people aren't or are using it in a certain way, and it's because their permissions aren't what they're supposed to be, or maybe they have too much permissions, so it allows them to work around, process all these things. Properties access, objects access, workflows access. So basically an audit of HubSpot here. And so right now we're in line with, this is a configuration playbook. Please move to the next card.
So we're done.
Yeah, we're gonna assume we have all this stuff.
This one is hard to have at the beginning.
Tell me more.
I would probably hesitant at the beginning of the playbook to tick these. Okay, you can identify a team member, but can you claim at the beginning that they're realigned? Conceptually, I mean, we got yes at the beginning that, hey, yes, we need and want Unified Customer View. If that's that yes you're looking for. Otherwise, I would be hesitant to say teams are aligned already.
Yeah, I think that's where the subtext here maybe needs to be more forward. Because in the first one, team member identified at least one other person who will use the Unified View daily. It's not uncommon to run into situations where HubSpot really isn't required for any business critical processes. So have we confirmed, and a lot of this is like admins or leaders in the background that aren't like actually using the systems can decide, yeah, we're going to do Unified Customer View. If you don't get anybody that actually confirms the need for that or want for that, like you won't get the support you need to actually figure out what the view is. And on the second one, all we're looking for is alignment on which teams like need visibility. And again, these are baby steps that you can do a lot of work around these to configure systems. But when you don't have them, you just run into some kind of brick wall at some point. And I think this is going to be where the rubber starts meeting the road in terms of, okay, great. How do we go from unified customer view sounds great, but I've never actually heard it being accomplished, to like taking these steps. And I think we are sticking to like, you cannot move forward if you haven't identified somebody that's customer facing that needs a unified customer view. I think the easiest example is, okay, Casey, like we're ready for unified customer view. Go ahead and set that up like in HubSpot and let us know when it's done. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So the person who doesn't know your business
Mm-hmm.
and the person who's not going to be using the unified customer view every day is the person that's supposed to set it up.
Not alone, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is a good explanation of what teams align mean, but maybe it's not align, but teams identified. In our experience, where we want to start is understanding which teams rely or want to rely on HubSpot. So the thing we are now cleaning up or setting up doesn't necessarily mean they're already aligned on what needs to be done and what they really need. But just understanding, okay, only marketing is using HubSpot, or marketing and sales will be using it, is important to understand, so you know who needs to be involved in the whole process. If you want to have sales and marketing use the unified customer view, you need to be talking to both teams from the get-go. Otherwise, you'll just increase the friction between those two teams, because you will be following the desires of one team, which are not, I can guarantee you, aligned with what the other team thinks is important. And you'll be prioritizing that part of data. We had that case with one of the customers. In the beginning, we started with the marketing team doing the enrichment of and cleanup of contacts and companies for contacts and companies not older than 6 months. And that was fully cleaned up. And then we started talking to sales. Yeah, but only 20% of my contacts have been enriched. I mean, yes, because that was the scope we discussed. So if we would from the get-go understand who really wants the data, so understanding and confirmation from their side who wants to use that data is, I think, important at the beginning, more than the alignment. That will happen down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
just think like when we look at like team member, like so often in these conversations, like who is the person who said we needed a unified customer view to begin with? Like who's the internal champion, and how close are they to, in this case, like HubSpot, and like actually being the person that's viewing it each day? Sometimes it's very close. Like sometimes it is the people who are using the data that are like, we need the data, but oftentimes it's not also. So sometimes I just find it can sometimes be challenging if the people who the view is for are not bought in at the beginning, then they don't understand what we're doing.
Yes. And I think as I read some of these, like there's definitely an element of, maybe someday I start providing like behavioral science or whatever. But like the buy-in, like it's been such a struggle, like forever, right?
Mhm.
And while it's easy to get buy-in for the unified customer view, like buy-in for the work to do it is almost never there, and it's completely different. And I think what I'm starting to see is like, which it's very hard to put this as the goal, but you gotta make them believe it can be done, right? So starting with small commitments, like, because it's kind of a trick question. Agreement on which customer-facing teams need visibility. They all need visibility, right? So they're all going to say yes, but where? Like, doesn't mean it's in HubSpot. Might not even be in any system. They've got it in their inbox and their spreadsheets, and right. So I do need to get better at saying that. Like the unified customer view exists somewhere. Usually, it's right before the boardroom, right before the next presentation. Spending hours gathering slides, getting everything together from people's heads and from emails and all the places, and then you have it for like this fleeting moment, and then it's like out of date immediately. Which brings us to the next. So I think there's an element of like we just have to get like some yeses, no matter how simple they are. I also think it helps like build trust in the process that we're not just showing mountain after mountain of like impossible task in front of you, right? I think it leads well to the next one, right? Like build on it. Do we have documentation of our systems? Even the informal ones. Just holding the customer data. So list of systems currently holding customer data. You might think this should be an easy answer. It rarely is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it should be easy, but how difficult it tends to be, and how I'm even just thinking like how often you can get 50%, maybe even like 75 or 90% down the road towards a unified customer view, and then surprise, there's this other set of data that no one you were talking to knew about, or no one thought, oh, that customer data. Why would you need our accounting stuff? I didn't think that was important.
Oh man,
HubSpot's marketing.
Yeah. And once we've identified, like, so who's going to own it? Not even who's going to own it. Who could be a champion? I think like the people that are going to use unified views.
I would argue there should be an owner.
Yeah, I think that's what we need. This,
when you're building, things will break. There's no other way. And then someone will need to say, okay, yes, hold on. An internal person would need to be that, not the champion, but the owner of that. So that this is the one who will say, yes, things broke because we are implementing something new. Just hold on.
Yep. And that's different from what we usually see during onboarding is, all right, we need to build some emails, we need to build some campaigns, we need to build some automation. If it's across different teams, like the person who's in charge of that task, like can help support the implementation, but then you look back 3 months later and you don't know if that was a valuable activity, if it's working or not, and because nobody owns it. So that's a good call out. And that person needs time to own it. So this time commitment up front, again, it's not something the external third party can do, right? The team needs to be bought in and participating in this process. This section, I think, probably needs some work, but basically, do you know what your data is telling you, how it's structured. Even like all of these should be easy wins, but they're often not. Like, where are all the contact records? Oh, we just worry about companies, like companies that we leads, and then we pull it out of the system, and then we like do the contacts in another system.
So that's what you're asking here is like, where do contacts live? Where does company data live? Not so much like, what is all the company data we have?
Yeah, I think this is where it gets specific to HubSpot, like customer contacts in HubSpot, even if incomplete. And like an example that comes to mind, I asked in the past to send an email to the customer list. And all those emails are in like the ERP system or somewhere else that I can't access. Pretty hard to build a unified customer view if you don't have the customers like in the system. I think it leads to being able to identify test cases. Number 3 here, at least 10, quote, good customer records to use for testing. I'm curious, I imagine you run into this a bit where trying to help people clean data, like just finding any spaces where we trust the data or we even know what it is and where it came from.
I would say not only 10 good, but also 10 bad. Because if we'll be building on records where you have everything, you will assume you will always have everything, which is, I can guarantee you, not the case. And as you build the system, you want the system to cover all the edge cases. And these are the 10-20% of the difficult parts of building it out. That's what we see when we're building all the AI agents. How people start, and I think that analogy just will explain why you need also the bad ones or the incomplete and all that. You go build an agent, you run it on 10 perfect cases, and you say, yes, the agent works, the classification is correct, or we found the right data, because for that 10, the data is there. Then you run the next 11th one, and that data is missing. And then AI will want to please you, and it will give you the answer, and it will hallucinate because you asked to give you the answer, and it will help you. It will deliver the data, perfect hallucinated data. So you need the positive and the negative control to start with. Seek and test. The same goes for lead scoring. Okay, so I'm going in your direction. If you take 10 records where you have all the data, you will build a scoring system which will work. But what happens when you have only 10% of the data available? The system still needs to work somehow. So this is why I think you need more than 10 good examples.
I think that's a good point, and that's actually why what I like to do when I'm getting situated in a new portal is, or when I'm setting up lead scoring, the same. I'll often ask for examples of good records, but then I also try to just look at like, what are our recent form submissions? Like, what data is coming in on just the average bear coming into our CRM? Because a lot of times the good examples that I get are contacts associated with deals, because those are the humans that the sales team knows, and they're like, yes, use this person. know that they're a good example. I know them. But then you look at the 20 most recent form submissions and nobody has a job title, so you just don't know anything to do with those people or what to do.
That's the question I wanted to ask, is what is good? Because I'm going to go on a limb and say it's pretty easy to find 10 bad ones, usually.
I would say it's usually the last 10 are the bad ones.
Oh man. So what does good mean? What if there aren't any good? Like, how do we lower the bar in terms of what good means?
What if there aren't any good?
Then we have, I guess, another discussion if they're not good ones. Good means verified or processed or reviewed by a human. So records, they trust the data.
There we go. Trust. Like, that's what my read is here. Like, we've got to build these views out like on some level of trust. Like, if you're starting from zero, like it's hard to get like an inkling of belief that you can even accomplish it. And that's where I think, like, it says even if incomplete at the top, there's generally somebody who knows like what's going on. Like, if that human's in the system, like, go grab that person and say, like, let's, like, the person plus the record basically become like the good example. And getting to that place of known, trusted information, I think, is what we need to get to here. And then, of course, related to that is, if it's associated to deals, like understanding how all the objects are used.
Because even when you say, like, what if there are no good examples, I think back to when that's happened, when I've gone into lead score and I've asked for good examples. It's less common to me that they have zero, like they don't have any good examples. It's more common that they give me a good example, and then I go on the record and there's nothing there. It's created by sales, and like there's no data on it, and I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? And they're like, no, they're like, this is exactly who we want to go after. And I'm like, but who are they? But the human who handed it to me knows exactly who that person is. In that case, what I more commonly see is there's a data gap.
Mm-hmm. I think this is why we have to start with organizational readiness. Like, you have to engage people like throughout the process, like, to have any chance of success here. And I just can't get over the end here. Like, you can still continue, but you may encounter blockers if you haven't verified all requirements. We recommend addressing any unchecked items before proceeding. How often do we show up and it's like, yeah, HubSpot got built, but nobody like is bought in to using it, and nobody knows what the data means. So, like, yeah. It tells me this is a worthwhile activity. Like, this result is going to be very common in that there's offer on these other spaces, and this is why this is so challenging. But we got to start somewhere, I guess. Let's move forward. Unless you have thoughts, Klemen. You're thinking.
I'm thinking I don't have things to block us going to the next view.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna see what kind of blockers we run into. Document your starting point. Before building anything, we need to understand where you are today. Your answers here will guide which parts of this playbook to prioritize. Answer at least 3 questions to continue. Be specific. Vague answers lead to vague implementations.
Not wrong.
Yeah, you need yes here.
Yeah.
So what questions about your customers can you not currently answer? Where do you currently look when you need the full picture on a customer? What customer context gets lost in handoffs between teams? Which HubSpot objects are you actively using today? Which objects have you tried, abandoned, or never explored? I would start with which HubSpot objects are you actively using today, because it feels like the easiest one. It's the most straightforward one. Like, what are we using? What are we?
We often try to. So one is asking them to articulate, and the other one is reviewing the portal to see what they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Which properties are visible on a contact and company record? This gives you a clear indication, which properties they want to have populated in whatever data available for the human user of the HubSpot. There might be other properties relevant, hidden, but this is often, in our experience, a good indication of understanding the current state of the portal, not only the objects, but properties.
So that's interesting, because when I see the properties listed on a record, and I think this is going to speak to the types of businesses I work with, probably. But like, I don't take that into much consideration, because most of the time it comes up for me that those they didn't even know you could customize those. They thought that was just like what it was. But I guess, Klemen, you're saying that those do seem to be important. Which
if they're only standard ones, it's probably clear that they don't even know how to customize it, or that you can. But if there are any different ones than the default ones, this is an indication that they know they can do it, and they did it. So they made those properties visible to the user. So because probably they are important.
Which, I mean, I was just thinking, like, in my head that it may just be the difference in like maturity. Like if a company is implementing Celestial, then they're at a maturity of their data. Like they have, they're trying to get after specific individuals and specific companies and improve their data, versus most of the time when people are calling me, it's like, HubSpot, we need help.
That's a fair point.
But I'm like, okay, I'm like, great, people are using that. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to ask questions that have meaningful answers to you. Like for the person that you're asking to like buy into the process or help. And that's where what I'm experiencing now, like if the person's job is not HubSpot admin or HubSpot owner, full-time HubSpot, and you start to get any level of technical, like HubSpot objects, like do they even know what you mean by that? And if they say contacts, companies, and deals, like, then what? And that's where I think questions like 1 and 2, or actually 2. I mean, I think question 1 is a hard, like in a vacuum. especially if the system's not working, they'll find a whole laundry list of things that they still answer. They just don't use HubSpot for it. So that's where they'll always look somewhere when they're trying to get a full picture of the customer. I think that's my favorite one here. If you do have multiple teams, then number 3 becomes super valuable and super insightful if you can get a healthy dialogue happening there.
Can I, Chris, ask you a question that maybe I should have asked at the top? Do you think there's a minimum viable like HubSpot subscription or team structure to make this work in a meaningful way? Or can you have Starter and get a unified customer review to work in a meaningful way?
I think you can have like free. I mean, you can do this in Excel. Like, it's basically, do you have a person who's looking at it right now? Do you have all the data in front of you in the single pane of glass that you need to reach out to the person you want to reach out to and not have to log into other softwares and click a bunch of screens?
So all you'd need is a human who's working with other humans and has a need for a single place to get the data they need.
Yep.
Just a human in a dream.
Indeed. And this is where I struggle. Very curious what's on the next page. Like at some point, so I guess let's read the end of the other page. Why document this? These answers become your success criteria. When you're done with this playbook, you should be able to answer these questions directly from HubSpot. If you can't, you're not done yet. We need to get to, and maybe it's on the next page, but we got to get to the defining moment of what is a customer view, like for our customer teams. So choose your starting scope. Trying to unify everything at once is the fastest path to an abandoned project. Correct. Start focused, prove value, then expand. Pick the scope that best matches your immediate needs. Yeah, we've got to start with some kind of definition of what unified view is for the people involved.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between one of these and the like view all properties on a record? I'm baiting now.
Yeah, I think like view all property is just information, like without context. Basically, like it's very hard to see all the associations. You need to like all the activity, the engagement, signals. I mean, if you think about what happened, like even having to go to view all properties, like it's because you're not seeing the information like in the place that you'd like to be seeing it. At this point in any HubSpot conversation, we're usually showing people how to create CRM cards so that they can not have to go to view all properties.
Mhm.
But that was one thing crazy last year, learning about how some processes are built around that, especially in the sales process, where
Mhm.
it makes sense though if you know that's the place where all the properties are.
Mhm.
Like that's where, like, especially before it was like a sidebar, it'd
Mhm.
take you to a different page, and now you've lost all the relational like data.
Mhm.
So it kind of takes, like, you can't see relationship, right? If you're just looking at view all properties.
Yeah. And I mean, really, even if we're talking in HubSpot land, even the opening of the sidebar, it still covers the relationship side of the screen too.
Yeah.
To your point. But also I think it's worth noting that like view all properties almost never, like you almost never need all the properties. Like there's gonna be stuff on the record that's just not relevant to you or really the other human on the other side at the end of the day. A lot of times, like there's just, you know,
I don't think you will ever need all.
and so you're just adding noise, I think, if that's what if you try to get everything, if you try to see every single property that exists, you're just adding noise.
Yeah. I think like it's easy to get that, easy to misunderstand. Like we're not just saying like all the data like in one spreadsheet. Right now we have a unified view. It's like the more noise you have, the less trust you're going to have in the system. Which is probably the most impact on usage is things on the screen that don't matter to us as we're trying to get our job done. So,
And from the data perspective, if you think about cleanliness and completeness, you don't need to get 100% of all properties being cleaned and complete. You need to identify which are relevant because they're used in lead scoring, in workflow triggers, whatever, or for sales rep to see something before the call. Those should be populated and reliable and trustworthy. The rest, it's fine if it's empty. If you don't care about the state in the US, it's fine if you don't have the state information. You just add the complexity of trying to make that information complete. But if that isn't important information for whatever reason, then this is what you should strive to get to be completed and cleaned up.
yeah.
And you will be just saving money, not trying to make something which is anyway useless.
Yeah. That brings us back to like the good use cases. And then deciding what the scope is, because so often like it's like, oh, we need to clean up the Zoom info data that's coming into HubSpot. And it's like, do you even need job titles? Do you need to know employee size? Do you need all this enrichment you're asking for? That's where it's easy to get there. Like if it's just like, all right, we look at all the properties, let's fill them all in. But if it doesn't help you drive relationships, you probably don't need it. Made it through part 1 of the playbook.
Look, from a episode structure standpoint, I think that's all we could have hoped for.
Yeah.
So is this a fair endeavor to I guess this is what George likes to say, goes like slow down to speed up, right?
Yeah.
Even if you start with a focused scope, design your contact properties to accommodate the full picture. You'll expand later. Interesting. Yeah, so I guess we'll be back next week to tackle, to continue moving through the playbook. Any final thoughts? Or
We just started.
we just started.
I think it was a good foundational episode, and it's good to kind of think about kind of what you need to get started. I very much like to work quickly, and I like to make progress, and I like to see progress quickly. And the downfall of that is that I do often kind of overlook and try to speed past some of these things because I'm just so eager to like see something happen. But as in the great words of George B. Thomas, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up.
Yeah, I know I'm uncomfortable with the idea that this could take 4 episodes. So we'll see what happens when we come back next week. But I'm building confidence in that this is as obvious as you think this stuff is, or as much as you think you can skip this stuff. Like, there's a reason that nobody has really solved this gap before, and a lot of it's because we're not doing this groundwork to begin with. So that was the before you build section of the Unified Customer View Playbook. Until next week, same time, same place. Thanks so much, Klemen and Casey.
Thank you both.
Bye.
See you next week.